Hi, Vivicca. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you. All right, folks. Thank you so much for being here. I know that people are going to be in and out. We're going to go for about 90 minutes, and I assume there will be some late people. So hopefully they will get here soon. One of those late people is one of our panelists, Assaf Cohen. But we're gonna go ahead and press forward. Do my little intro spiel, and hopefully Assaf will be here by the time we really get started. So this is part of our series that we're calling You Are the Union. And so I want to introduce the people you'll be seeing today. My name is Amir Talai. I'm a SAG-AFTRA board member here in Los Angeles. Vivicca Whitsett is also a board member in Los Angeles. She is the chair of the National Equal Employment Opportunities Committee and has been on multiple committees in the past. And Assaf Cohen, joining us shortly, has been on so many boards and committees that he's literally lost count. So we've been doing these live streams for a couple months now, but it's actually something I've wanted to do for years, right? Which is to get elected leaders in the room with other members to sort of bridge the gap a little bit. There's this feeling that there's the union and then there's members. And it's really, really important to remember that you are the union. Right? The union is not some corporation like Disney or Walmart. It's us. It's you and me, right? And if you want to change things at the union, you have the power to get involved, right? Whether it's volunteering at the union, giving feedback to staff and leaders, or just getting more informed about it, come to meetings, whatever, watch things like this, and then advocating for your fellow members out in the world. So I want to be really clear about something. Assaf and Vivicca and I are here as individuals. We are not spokespeople for the union. And I know that some of you are going to have questions about the announced changes to the healthcare plan. That's great. And we will do our very best to answer those. But we are not health plan trustees, right? So we can answer sort of general level questions about the plan and how it works for the union. But if you want detailed answers to specific health plan questions, we highly recommend that you attend the last official health plan webinar, which is hosted by the union, tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Pacific. And you can go to sagaftra.org to register for that. If that doesn't answer your questions, you can call or email the plan and they'll walk you through whatever changes might mean for you in your specific situation. And I want to reiterate, we've been elected to various positions, the three of us, but we don't have the authority to speak on behalf of the union, right? We're here as ourselves. So we might not always have the answer to your questions, but if we don't, we'll help you look for the answers, right? We might not have the ability to act immediately on any ideas that you might have, but I can tell you that hearing your feedback is what makes us better leaders, better able to represent you. And the good news is, since we're not here in an official capacity, we can sometimes be a little more candid about our opinions, right? Notwithstanding anything confidential that we can't comment on. So here's how it's going to work. I just want to set a rough agenda so that you know what to expect. If you have a question that you want to ask us or a comment about something that you want to see changed or implemented, go ahead and put it in the chat box, either on Zoom or on YouTube. And then Jen Levin, who's a Los Angeles delegate, she's going to get them to me to read. I want to get to as many of your questions as possible. So we're going to be, prioritizing frequently asked questions and first-time questioners. If you prefer to ask your question on video, let Jen know in the chat, and then you just have to be on Zoom as opposed to YouTube. If you're on YouTube, the Zoom link should be in the description. Feel free to ask us anything, right? I know that a lot of you want to ask about the health plan, but feel free to ask us about other stuff as well. Like I said, we're not health plan trustees. We have a sort of breadth of union knowledge, and if you have a question about that, we want to answer it for you. And then finally, I just want to let everybody know that we're recording this and we're posting it later as a resource for people who can't be here right now. So if you want to ask your question anonymously, just say that in the Zoom chat and then I won't say your name. Or you can just DM me on Instagram, right? I'm open, right? I see that Assaf has joined us. I'm glad you're here. Will you come off mute just so I make sure I can hear you okay? Oh, I think I need to unmute you. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Hey.
Fantastic.
Everyone.
Thanks for being here, buddy. Okay, so I just want to jump right into questions. Let's see. Checking the chat. Okay, before Jen gets me questions, I'll just start with a really quick one that I got over Instagram yesterday. They had received the SAG-AFTRA magazine, right? And they were like, why is the union wasting money on making a magazine when we're losing money, right? When the budget is so short. And the answer is simple. We're actually not wasting money on the magazine. We're making money on the magazine. And a lot of people wouldn't know that, right? The advertising that we sell in the magazine helps pay for the magazine and more. And that goes to members. So that's a simple question. All right. David Lawrence wants to ask a question on camera. So we're gonna put him in. Let me see if I can. Hi, David. Hi,
hey,
nice to see you. What's your question, my friend?
So I have two questions actually. With the discounted COBRA payment, which entity, if you know, is responsible for the 80% shortfall? Who's paying that other 80%? If you're not paying 780, you're paying 180 after October 1st if you lose coverage. Who's covering that? Is it the health plan, the union, something else?
Yeah. Assaf, do you know that answer?
That was the first part. You said there was a second part of your question, David?
Yeah, the second part. What's that?
No, go ahead.
Go ahead, David.
I just want to see if they're related or if they inform each other or if they're separate topics.
Yeah, no, they tie together. But the people who lost their coverage on June 1st, they're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place because the announcement was made during the quarter that they lost their coverage, and it appears that only people that lose their coverage after they have will be available or made available the discounted payment. So I'm just trying to get clarity around that because I've gotten a few questions on it.
As far as, thank you for that. It's a tough place. You know, I just want to make sure, I'm sure most of the people who are watching or listening understand how COBRA works. But if you're not familiar with COBRA, it's just in a nutshell, it's a where if you're not able to qualify for the health insurance that you had through your employer, then you can pay, and generally at a really high premium, to keep that plan for a certain amount of time. We have that currently. The SAG-AFTRA health plan, they do offer that option. It's pretty pricey. Last I checked, it was like $916 or something for an individual, and then it just goes, if you have dependents, it goes much higher than that. You know, the changes that the SAG-AFTRA health plan announced they're tough. They're no beating around the bush. Nobody likes it. It's hard. For some people, it really means that either they're not going to qualify under, you know, active earnings to hit the threshold what they had to hit either through agent service, or if it was plan 2 at the lower threshold. But there is the option to qualify 2 ways through COBRA, and generally the premiums are really off-putting because they're a lot. And the health plan trustees explained, and Amir, I was a little late coming in. I apologize. I had some technical difficulties. But if you explain this to me, if you already mentioned this, then please stop me here. but none of us are trustees to the health plan.
Yeah, Assaf, I didn't really get too into that, but I would like, if you don't mind, to really focus on David's question, because I want to try and get to as many people as possible. So just specifically, as far as COBRA, like who's paying that extra COBRA
Premium?
Premium. Thank you.
My understanding, and I'm not 100% solid on this, so I'll find out. My understanding is that the SAG-AFTRA health plan itself will be picking up the tab for that. Any other entities that would be involved here? If it isn't us paying for it, it's certainly not the employer here. That leaves the health plan.
I just wondered if it was a government thing, or if it was something that either the union or the health plan was going to be picking up. That's a huge discount, and it's something that...
I'm not 100% sure on that, and I want to be absolutely clear. I don't want to say it is this. I think it's that. I'm not sure. So let me get back to you on that.
That's my understanding as well, Assaf. So thank you. Thank you so much, David. Thank you. Question from Chuck Slavin at New England. Thank you. I hope you're well too, Chuck. So how are the trustees for the health plan selected for their positions? What qualifications might they have? And what is the term and structure of the board of trustees? So generally, how does how do the trustees get there, and how long do they stay? Assaf, do you know that?
Sure. So the way that our benefits plans work, the SAG-AFTRA health plan, as well as the SAG pension plan and the AFTRA retirement fund, they're set up by equal numbers of trustees, and half are selected by our employers, and that could be representatives from the studios and the networks and the advertising agencies. That's half, and then our national board of directors appoints the union side trustees, and they tend to be people that the national board has confidence in, that will actually work in the best interests of the participants.
And how often are they appointed, Assaf?
It can vary. You can have several a year, or you can go for years without them. It's really whenever there's a vacancy, or when the national board decides that they need to make changes.
So they stay on sort of as long as they're able to serve, as long as they want.
As long as they're able to and want to, and as long as the national board has confidence in them.
Mm-hmm.
Tend to be people, it's a mix right now of some of our senior, most knowledgeable staff members who are mostly attorneys, who really have a very deep understanding of this, and some veteran performers, veteran SAG-AFTRA members who have been in this for years. And if you haven't had a chance to attend one of those health plan Zoom webinars, I can't enough how valuable the information they provide is, how much context I learned, how much they really go through numbers and they explain how they make the decisions they do.
Yeah,
but it's not the president, it's not an individual, certain individuals in a group. It's the full SAG-AFTRA National Board of Directors decide if and when to make any changes.
Yeah, I think the most recent trustee hasn't been appointed for years, if I'm not mistaken.
I think there was one, I think, last year.
Okay.
We made an appointment. Yeah, we made an appointment last year.
Okay. Yeah, but it doesn't sound like there's a lot of turnover there, which is probably a good thing, right? That the trustees have some sort of institutional knowledge, have been there for a while, and the ones that are appointed by the national board, I don't assume they're going to appoint some moron like me to the board of trustees. It'll be someone who's dealt with like SAG-AFTRA finance for years, right? I mean, if you agree to be a trustee, you have to also take a class and get basically certified. So I mean, it's a long process. So once someone agrees, yes, I want to volunteer my time as a trustee, it's very time consuming, and there's a learning curve that they have to meet as well. So that's why I think there's such a low turnover. Like once you're in, you understand it, you've gone through all of the necessary education to become a trustee. And then it's a matter of, okay, so we have half
are made up of union members and half are made up of our employers. So it's 50-50.
Right. Okay. Great. So question here, what do our dues pay for and what do they not pay for? That's a great question. I think that the primary things that our dues pay for is contract enforcement, contract negotiation, safety, and then payment. Those are sort of the main four, right, guys?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What they don't pay for very much of is healthcare. Our healthcare is paid primarily by our employers, and then of course our premiums, right, which individual members pay. But our dues don't go to the health plan, do they?
No, they do not.
Yeah. Okay.
There's actually there's a very clear legal separation, and that's a good thing. You want that separation. These are completely separate organizations. One is to its participants, and one is to SAG-AFTRA members. Not all SAG-AFTRA members are fortunate enough to become participants. When you're just starting out in your career, you may not be eligible. If you're not hitting those thresholds for qualifying, you may not be a participant quite yet. So these are two different organizations with a very clear firewall between them. They do not commingle finances. So even these dues, that's great for the union. God knows we could use that assistance right now at the union, but none of that would go towards the health plan or the pension plan.
So I've been hearing a lot over the last week that like the health plan and the union are separate, and they're legally not allowed to commingle funds or coordinate decisions. I've been struggling to understand exactly why that is, though. Like, why is there a legal separation between the health plan and the union? What's the benefit to that?
Oof. Probably have to ask a lawyer. I'm guessing. I don't know if you.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's tough because I think a lot of people want them to be connected, right? Like a lot of people are like, I want my union to provide me good health care, right? But it's tough because they're like, the union should be looking to fix the healthcare, and I'm like, there's no healthcare professionals on the union staff, right? The union staff is here to keep us safe, to negotiate our contracts, and to get us paid, right? The healthcare professionals work for the health plan. Right. And so I think that if we wanted to hire more staff, I'm not sure how that would work, but I'm really willing to learn and listen. Right. That's I'm just trying to figure that out because it's a question that's coming up a lot.
So there's liability issues involved here. If heaven forbid one institution goes down, if the health plan goes down, you don't want to take the union down with it. God forbid that should ever happen. But as far as the actual reasoning behind that, I'm not sure what that is.
Okay.
Well, I think it's because you have how am I going to put this? I think it needed to be separate because it's a union and it's not a corporation. So the fact that we have our employers pay into our health and pension, that's a completely separate entity, and it should be, because there should be like a Chinese wall separating the union business versus the union which services our members versus our health care, our health and pension. That has to be separate, that there can't be intermingling because of the confidentiality of stuff that's going on. Like whatever's going on with the health plan and the pension plan that the trustees have to deal with, there may be a conflict of interest with the union aspect of it, which is why you want to keep them as separate entities.
That makes sense.
Vivicca is exactly right. Just bottom line, what you just said is exactly it. These are separate organizations, and don't forget, half of the benefits plans, including the health plan, is run by management. The management trustees. We don't want to give them access direct access to our financials at the union. That's one of various reasons I can think of where we don't want to go down that road, and we can't. They're just two separate organizations. Vivicca's exactly right.
Yeah. Okay, great. I got a comment from Ron Morgan, who's been serving the union for years. Trustees must also take classes and become fiduciary to the plan. I think that's an important thing, which makes them personally responsible for their choices, and that's federally mandated, by the way. So thank you for that, Ron. All right, we have a question from David. Let me see if I can unmute David, and feel free to start your video if you want, David.
Sure.
Hey
Hi
there.
there. Historically, the reason they keep health and pension separate from the union is that in the old days, might even been caused to the just disappearance of Jimmy Hoffa in the 70s, the union heads very often dipped into the either pension or healthcare funds to fund the running of the union or their own personal preferences for treats and jollies and parties. So that's why they put a real firewall there. They can't even be in the same building. They have to be in separate buildings.
Wow.
So that's how physically and emotionally and mentally
And contractually.
and exactly the pension and healthcare have to be totally separate from the physical operation of the union.
Awesome. Thank you so much, David. I really appreciate that cluing us into that. Yeah, that's obviously that makes it plain, right? Thank you for explaining that to me. Couldn't be more clear why we want to actually protect the health plan from the union, right? I never thought about it that way, but that's really interesting, you know? Let's see.
Yeah, the health plan is over in Burbank. I don't know if you guys look at the address. It's like 3001 something in Burbank, whereas the union we all know is on Wilshire. So thank you, David, for providing that insight as to why they can't even be in the same building. I didn't know that.
Let's see. What is required to run for elected office? Who wants to take that one?
You just have to be a paid up member in good standing. As long as you are a paid up member in good standing, you can run. And that means any member, and you just pick your category.
Yeah.
It's exactly right, because right. I know for certain, if you want to run with a certain local, if you want to run for a local board, then you need to have been a member in good standing of that particular local for a certain amount of time. You know, the Constitution delineates exactly how long you need to have been for each position, and generally, the higher the office, then the longer you need to have been, a member in good standing, I think.
Great. One of the things I loved is I saw a 9-year-old girl, new SAG member on the SAG-AFTRA Instagram. She was 9 and she was so excited because she got to vote. It was the first time she got to vote in an election that mattered.
That's awesome.
So that was pretty neat.
Awesome.
I don't know that she can run, but we'll find out. I'm going to be honest. I'm not seeing any questions coming in right now. I wonder if everyone here has been to the union webinars and has gotten everything they wanted. But ask away, guys. It doesn't have to be about the health plan. In fact, I'd love for it to not be about the health plan.
So
I got I don't know if I want to talk about this because it might be private. So okay, I'll go ahead and say this. I got a DM from a friend who's like, some of the people on social media have been really condescending as far as how do you know if it's how do you not know that the health plan is separate from the union? And I just want to say that if that was me, I sincerely apologize. You know, I don't want to be condescending about this. You know, my whole goal with being involved in union governance is to try and help people, right? And when these changes got announced last week, I saw a whole bunch of people going, "Fuck the union," and I'll be honest. If that was me, and if I saw red because I saw people saying "fuck the union" and I came off condescending to anybody, I really want to apologize. I don't mean to do that, right? But you know, when I see that kind of talk, I think maybe some people react like they're different. The health plan and the union are different, right? And if that was me, again, I'm really sorry. You know, this is a trying time, and I'm as worried and as scared as any of you. You know, I think sometimes we try and act like we have it all together because we don't want people to be scared. Right? Because we want to help them. Like if we just give them information, that'll help, you know, and that doesn't always help, right? And so I just want y'all to know that like we're scared too, right? These changes suck. We're not happy about these changes to the health plan. We're doing everything we can to help people, right? To be of service. So I don't know what else to say. Let me see if any questions.
I agree with you, Amir, if I may. And if I ever came across that way in person, on the phone, or on social media, or anywhere, as coming across as condescending, I don't know if it's meant for someone else specific or if it was me, then I apologize. That is never my intention. This stuff is not, nobody's born knowing this stuff. I remember when I first started getting involved in union governance affairs, I didn't know anything. I was just a moron. I'm just an actor. You know, started out doing school plays, and when I first got involved, I said, well, I don't know much about Constitution or about how things work. And that's not what's important. You'll learn, and it's okay. But I think it's a wonderful step for all of us to recall that everybody's in a different place in their journey of how much they understand about how your union works, our union works. And when Amir told me about this idea of this series of like, you are the union, I thought that was genius, because so many people, and I remember myself thinking when I first joined SAG, and before that Actors Equity, thinking, oh, well, that's them. They're over there, and I'm getting to join them, and I will be part of their club, and they've got this whole thing going, but I get to sort of say, hey, I'm one of you. And once I really became more and more immersed, and I started understanding, oh, no, wait, this is really us. It is us. It is an embodiment of us as a membership. This is something that performers put together to protect us. And when we attack our union, which no one is perfect. I'm far from perfect, as I hear constantly. Nobody is immune to making mistakes, but when we attack the union, we're attacking ourselves a little bit. It doesn't mean there aren't people who aren't making the best decisions sometimes. That's fair. That's a fair criticism. But sometimes I see a lot of unfair criticism. People being attributed doing something that they, first of all, don't even have any jurisdiction there or any power over that. And I find that that's unfair, and sometimes that could be, especially if it's people you may know and care about, who you know their hearts, and you know these are good people, and they're being unfairly criticized or attacked, then sometimes you may not be as patient as you want to be, and we try to be. I try to be.
I see a comment here. I don't know if you mind me using your name, so I'm just going to not. I think people want accountability. That's it. They want to feel protected. And the language we're being armed with is, you're not protected. Suck it up, Buttercup. You should have read the fine print. Yeah, I mean,
Listen,
I don't like that is how anyone has felt, right? And it upsets me. It upsets me that people didn't know that the health plan and the union are separate, not because I'm mad at them, but because information should have been clearer to people, right? People should have known that, not why didn't you know that, dummy, but dang it, how is it that people don't know that, right? And I think that's definitely a partially the union and the health plan's fault, right? The fact that people didn't know that it was separate is a failure of communication. Now, obviously, communication is a two-way street. Obviously, we send out emails that don't get read, right? And a lot of people in leadership will say, like, why don't people read their emails? And everything we find, if people read their emails, well, it's 2020, and for whatever reason, people don't, right? So maybe we need to figure out a better way to communicate with people. That being said, yeah, people should read their emails, right? But I hate that anyone is being condescended to, and fuck, man, I'm sorry that someone came off to you with a suck it up buttercup attitude. That sucks, right? Yeah, that's a real bummer. I will just say that, like, social media is not a great fucking place for a nuanced conversation, and and frankly, there's anger over this, and then there's anger just sort of what's going on in the world right now. There's a lot of righteous anger, right? What I always say is, like, careful where you aim your anger, because sometimes it'll get used against you, right? Okay, sorry. Why have the earnings caps on contributions not been raised since 1984? This makes me livid. So I know part of the answer to that, but does anyone feel like they have the full answer? I'll give my part. I'll give my part, and then y'all can fill in. So part of that is that the raising the earnings caps is something that is negotiated in every contract with the producers, right? And it adds to their bottom line when we do that. So what we've looked for is other ways to get money out of them. And so to us, if my understanding is correct as far as what happens in negotiations, is we decide, well, what will benefit all members as opposed to hurting a few members, right? Is that a pretty accurate description of what happens in negotiations and why it's been so hard to raise the caps?
So I was not part of this last TV theatrical negotiation or the one before that. I have been on a couple of negotiations in the past. And I think it's pretty safe to say that is something we're always looking to get. When we talk about increasing the caps of how much percentage the employers have to put on top of raising the caps. So right now for commercials, it's about $1 million. Most actors, unfortunately, do not reach that. So there's no worry about hitting the caps there. For film, right now, I think the cap is about $232,000. Man, I hope we're hitting those caps, except for the stars of film, or if it's an immensely successful film and it's a small cast, I think it's kind of hard to hit that. So no worries about hitting the caps there. In television, we're looking at about $24,500 in a cap for a 1 hour show and $15,000 for a half-hour show. Let's take a look at that 1 hour as an example. We're talking about $24,500 that you earn outside of certain fees of like late fees or things such as that. But once you hit $24,000 of $500, and that could be whether you worked as a guest star or as a series regular, no matter what. So if you're making $35,000 as a series regular, once you film your first episode, you film that episode and you get paid for it, you're already over the cap, which means any future earnings that you make, you'll get paid for those residuals, great. But that will not contribute to the pension and health plan. And it will not help you as an individual, and it will not help the plan. For most of our members, though, unless you're part of the fortunate group that are series regulars, or recurring guest stars, or even a very successful, like a guest star was making Top Show, and it's one of those shows that they do primetime re-airs of. Hopefully we get those because you get some nice residuals. For television, most members outside of those categories generally are not going to hit those caps. So they would not be benefited too much by doing that. The ones who would benefit would be the series regulars and those guest stars that are probably hitting those minimum thresholds to qualify for health insurance already. What we do focus on, though, is in getting a higher percentage, which applies to all covered earnings. And we're talking background artists, we're talking co-stars, guest stars, series regulars, stunt professionals, we're talking singers, dancers, loopers, puppeteers, airplane pilots, who work under our contracts. I mean, there's so many categories, and that's a blanket contribution, and we try to increase that. And what we did get in this last negotiation is has been verified as an unprecedented monetary increase of 1% upfront, and then another 0.5% that could be diverted, and another 0.5% of 2%. Since the inception of the health plans, I think in the early 70s, that hasn't happened. And so that actually drives in a lot more money into the health plan and the pension plans as well, than benefiting just that. And it goes to all those earnings, not just to the series regulars and those fortunate guest stars.
Awesome. Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Assaf. Lee Purcell did mention or want to mention that the pension plan is also separate from the union and from the health plan, right? So that's useful to know.
As is the SAG-AFTRA Foundation.
Yes, exactly.
It's a separate organization. It's a non.
Speaking of, I wanted to mention one thing about the SAG-AFTRA organization. A friend of mine tweeted, why don't these celebrities give money to the health plan to help us out, right? They're making all these donations. Well, why don't they make donations to the health plan? Well, I'm not certain there's a mechanism by which private citizens can donate money to an insurer, but I will say that a lot of celebrities are donating a lot of their own money and raising a lot of money for the SAG-AFTRA Foundation, which helps members who are in need. Right now, with the pandemic insurance pandemic assistance that has been spotty at best, the SAG-AFTRA Foundation has, thanks in part to a lot of celebrities, been able to just send people money to help keep them afloat. A friend of mine texted me. He's like, I can't believe I just got a check for $1,000 just because of your Instagram post. Like, yeah, it's like it's pretty straightforward. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they are. That's fantastic. Donating to like you said, the SAG-AFTRA Foundation, the Actors Fund. Also, these are nonprofits that are not the union, and there's actually they're prevented by law. Individuals cannot contribute to the benefits plans. So
yeah, and
we're not allowed to do that.
Right. Yeah. Thank you for clarifying. Not only is there the reason there's no mechanism by which people can't donate to the health plan is because they're legally not allowed to, and the union also legally not allowed to give money to the health plan. Right. Let me see. I had. What is the process of getting on a committee, and what is the level of commitment time? Maybe describe one of your experiences on a committee and what it's like. Well, committees run the gamut. So some meet 4 times a year, some meet monthly, some have 2-hour meetings, some have extremely long meetings. The process of getting on one is it depends on whether you're trying to get on a local committee or a national committee. Can one of you describe the way of getting on a committee, please?
Sure. You go online, you fill out, there's a form that you can fill out, and you can pick out which committees you want to serve on. And then the union will forward that to whoever the committee chair is. It just depends on and then hopefully the committee chair does a little research on the member, and then either you'll get a phone call or you'll get an email if you're picked for the committee. And then it depends on, like Amir said, depends on the committee. Some committees meet a lot, and others 3 or 4 times a year. It just depends on what programs they want to implement, what they have going, and then also what your interest is. Like if you are really interested in serving on, say, a broadcasting committee, and that's where your passion is, or if you're a dancer and you want to serve on the dancer committee and advocate for dancers. I'm a comedian. There's not a stand-up comic committee yet.
I will say, I'm not going to lie, the communication from the union to the chairs could be improved. And
yes.
A lot of times, when the chairs get lists of members who are interested in a committee, they don't always have a lot of information about them. And P.S. by the way, a lot of the committees have a lot of people interested in them, right? So sometimes 300 people will apply to be on one committee and 30 people will apply to be on another. So it really depends. But a lot of times the committee chairs end up choosing people who have been very involved in the past. And that can definitely create a little bit of a barrier to people who want to get involved for the first time in a committee. So if you've never been involved in any kind of way, it can be difficult to get on a committee unless you can sort of have a talk with the chair. If you can't, a great place to get involved is the MOVE committee, the MORE committee. That's a place where you can just sort of lend a hand even though you're not a committee member, and get known to people, right? And yeah.
And get your toes wet.
And that process that you're hearing is absolutely is accurate. In the middle of a year, every 2 years we have elections, and aren't those fun? And then those committees get repopulated, and sometimes they'll stay the same, and sometimes there'll be minor changes, and sometimes there'll be big changes. And so there may not be a chair yet, and a lot of times there are no chairs. So the union should email all members in good standing a link to the committee request form, and then you fill it out. And if you're new to union service, the best thing you could do is not just to check off those boxes and say, well, I asked for it. Yeah, but you may be one of many asking for it. I would say reach out. Find out, reach out to whoever you can on social media. When you fill those out, there's a space where you can write something, write a message. My goodness, write a note and say, hi, my name is so-and-so. I'm really interested because X, Y, Z. And I think I have a background in this and that'll help you. And I'm hoping so-and-so. If you have access to a board member who's been active in that committee in the past, or the president of the local, reach out to that person. On a national committee, it's a little different, the process. The Constitution requires the president to recommend a list after consulting with all the national vice presidents that are relevant from the different locals and other applicable officers. And then they bring that recommendation to the national board, and then the national board looks at the list, and there's a lot of back and forth, and they finally approve or they don't approve. But that's how that process goes. It's not the chairs necessarily approving. In the middle of a term, it can be like that. So just on process-wise, I want to make sure we're being accurate. But reach out to people. If you know somebody's been the chair for a while, or has been on that committee for a while, find them on Facebook or on Instagram or whatnot, and message them and say, hey, I know that you've been involved in this committee, and I'd really like to be involved, and let me tell you about myself, and start a conversation so that you're not just a name that appears on a piece of paper, one of many. Then they can go, oh yeah, I know Jake O'Flaherty. I spoke to him about that. And if you reach out to several people, then you can start advocating for yourself in a more effective way.
Can I just say though, to be honest, this bothers me that people have to do this much work to make themselves known to a committee chair. I feel like the form should be simpler, right? And should get the chair. There should be, you shouldn't just send your name to the chair if you want to be on a committee. You should send a freaking application, right? This is who I am. This is what I've done. This is why I want to be on the committee. Like, all that should be in there.
Well, but it's not though. And sometimes you just get a list of names. Sometimes you just get a list of names. I know I've gotten just a list of names, and I've gone through every name and did a search on Facebook, and just to see, okay, what are their interests? Are they going to be really interested in doing the work? Because it's a lot of work. But sometimes all you get is a list of names, or sometimes I haven't even gotten a list. And I'd have to go back through and start asking people. So I think sometimes it's at staff level, especially when you're talking about forming committees. And I think you're right. I think the form needs to be streamlined, and I think it needs to have a bit more questions and details so that the committee chairs have way more information to choose from.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, for my committees, even though we have a set list, I have a backup volunteer list of people who may not have a vote in the room, but they want to be a part of it. So you could, and that way you can introduce people in an ad hoc basis, so to speak, so that they can see what's going on, and then maybe the next time you roll around and it comes to populating the committee, you can do that. But I think definitely the committee request should be streamlined. It should we should have a definite form to fill out and plug in.
Yeah. Okay.
So we have a lot more information.
Okay. Are you in favor of the new animation agreement? This was just negotiated, and it's out for a vote to the affected membership, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't looked at it yet. I do know that the executive committee, was it the negotiating committee, and unanimously recommended a yes vote. Can you guys back that up? Is that true?
Yeah.
I haven't. Vivicca.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, the negotiating committee did unanimously recommend a yes vote. I believe the executive committee did as well. I haven't read it. I know that it's similar to the full theatrical plan that passed a little bit ago, with some additional protections for animation, for shorter programs. So I would say I'm a tentative yes, based on the recommendations of the people who know better than I, but I haven't voted yet. I'll put it that way.
I haven't also. I haven't gotten a chance to look at it. I will look at it. I don't think I've worked the animation contract. I do know that when the negotiating committee and either the executive committee or the national board gives it a unanimous approval, that's a pretty good sign. You have a wide opinions and personalities and attitudes on the board and within the executive committee, and when it's unanimous, that's a good indicator.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry, Vi, did you want to weigh in on the?
Nope.
On the? Okay, great.
Oh, yeah.
So did we know this was an issue when we were in negotiations? I assume that she's referring to the idea that the health plan was in so much trouble. Did we know that this was an issue when we were in negotiations? Is there any chance to relook at the problems, perhaps change the outcome to benefit seniors more? Do either of you want to take that? That's a very complicated question.
So there's several questions in there.
I'm so sorry. Before I let you answer that, Assaf, I would like to just reread this question. Did we know this was an issue when we were in negotiations? So one of my favorite questions is, who is we, right?
Yes.
And so the question is, did SAG-AFTRA know that there were these problems when SAG-AFTRA were in negotiations? Did SAG-AFTRA know that there were problems with the SAG-AFTRA health plan when we were in negotiations? Assaf, please.
So again, I was not on the negotiating committee. I'm not on the board, haven't been on the board in years. So with that said, but I've been on negotiating committees in the past. I've been on this particular negotiating committee years and years ago. What I can tell you is that clearly the negotiating committee understood. It was signaled to them that getting as much money into the health plan was a priority, and into our health plan. And you could tell because we achieved the highest increase in almost since the plans were originated. That potential to get 2%. We haven't seen that, not since the early 70s. And that's going to pump, I mean, I read somewhere, I don't know the exact numbers, but a significant amount of money into the plan. So that they did get an unprecedented amount since the time the plans began. I know this was shared on the Zoom that the health plan put out, that they did not make this decision about how they didn't finalize their decision on this until July 31st. The negotiations happened well before that. At that time, nobody knew. We still don't know how long this virtual shutdown is going to go on. And the longer it goes on, when we're not getting paid, the health plan's not getting contributions. And we all know that that's like 80% of how they get funded. And if you think 5 months of not getting funded, what must that be like for their bottom line? And that's a financial, tsunami. I don't know if tsunami is the right word, but like an abyss that's dropping off an abyss. And they talk about this staggering loss of money and how they have to make ends meet. And so did we know? Did the negotiating committee know? I don't know exactly what was told to them. I wasn't there. But I do know that everybody who is on that negotiating committee, by the time that you get to serve on a negotiating committee, you're pretty experienced, and you understand what a production shutdown, which is effectively the same financial hit as like an industry-wide strike, where you don't have money coming into those very little money coming into those plans. What that does to their bottom line, and you gotta know. Well, if they're already asking us for, we need more money, and they haven't finalized their decisions yet, but they're saying that, and you understand that none of us are working, well, very few of us are working, that's going to be taking a massive hit on the health plans. So we did see them getting an unprecedented, and of course it's not the biggest problem is that even if we get a higher percentage, if we're not working, that's not going to make much of a difference.
Yeah.
Once we start working, then things get better, hopefully.
I want to get to the second part of their question, which is there any chance to relook at the problems and change the outcome to benefit seniors more? So again, we're not health plan trustees, but I can tell you that the trustees of the health plan are constantly looking. What happened now is not set in stone forever and ever, right? These are the current changes to the health plan. There were some changes made to the health plan a year ago. There was some changes made a few years before that. It's always changing, right? What they've done now is what they feel needs to be done in order for the plan to stay alive. Now, if we get into a position, right, if we get this vaccine next year and production is booming and it's getting a lot more money, I wouldn't be surprised. Of course, I'm not promising this, but I wouldn't be surprised if I saw the health plan make changes to make things better for all of the participants, right? I mean, that's kind of their job, right? Let's see. Okay. Starting next week, mixed earners already receiving lower unemployment benefits will start receiving benefits as low as $5 a week. Now, okay, so we're talking about unemployment. This is not health plan stuff at all, folks. We'll start receiving unemployment benefits as low as $5 a week with the loss of the $600 supplement. I see the union is advocating for members of Congress to support HR 7691. Thank you for working on this. So, HR 7691 is extremely, everyone on this call, this Zoom, this YouTube, write down that number, 7691. It's a really important bill that is going to help that's gonna help gig workers, right? Or mixed earners, as they're called, keep their benefits. So contact your reps and tell them you want that. Why is our union leadership afraid to leverage our only strength, a strike, in order to secure better employer funding? So I don't know that our leadership is just opposed to a strike in and of itself, but we have to read the tea leaves and know that that we need 75% of the membership to agree to a strike in any situation, and we also have to believe that it's going to do the job. What do you guys think as far as the union's fear of a strike?
A strike is it's a very powerful thing. It's like a nuclear weapon. You want to be really careful when you're striking. I disagree with the assumption that the union leadership is afraid to strike. I look at the interactive world of video games. We just led. I mean, when I say we, the union, this current leadership led the longest strike in the history of our union to secure residuals in interactive. So to say that we're afraid to strike, I don't know if that's exactly an accurate description. I think you need to be strategic about it. And in the past, we've gotten strike authorizations when we felt it was necessary, when we felt it would truly empower us. Sometimes that's necessary.
Yeah,
I think strike is the last thing that you want, rather than coming out and saying, that's the first thing on the table. If you don't give us what we want, we're going to strike. I think that's why it's called negotiation. You got to go in with negotiation, and where it's going to be give and take, and you understand not everybody, like a successful negotiation is both sides don't come out extremely happy. Everybody's going to be mad about something that they didn't get anything. But, I don't think this administration, I don't think we're afraid of striking. I think it's a matter of being cautious in pulling that strike lever. And when we do pull it, we mean it, and it is going to be pulled. It's not going to be a threat. So I don't think by any chance we're afraid of going out on strike. I think it's a matter of you're going to go into negotiation, and if you have to strike, and if we have to get to that point, then we will do it. We're just lucky we didn't have to get to that point. Because can you imagine if we were out on a strike and then all of this happened on top of everything else and not having a protected contract during this time?
By the same token, if we were on a strike and then the pandemic happened, that would be terrible. If there was a pandemic and then we went on strike, that wouldn't be useful, right?
Right.
They would say,
that's right.
But let's not forget that when we go on strike, we're not just hurting them, we're also hurting ourselves. In addition to the fact that our members during that time, we're not going to be able to work that whatever contract we're striking, or whatever employers we're striking. During that time, we're not getting contributions from all new earnings going into our benefits plans. We talk about that. And so whenever you strike, you got to not think about, people who regularly work this and kind of depend on that. There's a financial hit of them not being able to make that money of the actual sessions, the work, but also the benefits, the benefits plans suffer because they don't have that money that they projected. Okay, we're going to have that money coming in to pay for health bills. So if that's a big thing that you're going to strike, that's a big swath of money that you're now going to deprive contributions coming into your health plan, which puts them under more financial pressure. So that goes into the calculus. If it's an existential threat, if it's something that's serious enough, absolutely, you got to go to town. When they talked about not need residuals for video games, that's a game changer. That's unacceptable. And everybody agreed that's just unacceptable. And that's something we're willing to go to the mattresses for. But you want to be careful when you're doing that.
Well, you know, so I'm looking at the questions, and with respect, I'm seeing a lot of just sort of leading questions from people who know the answers. And what I'd really like is for people who don't know the answers to ask questions. I will say this really quick. I got 2 comments on stuff that's useful. The animation, there's an informational meeting tomorrow about the new animation contract. Go check that out, see if you like what you see, and vote accordingly. And again, just going to reiterate that everyone should watch the final health plan webinar tomorrow at 10:30 Pacific. You know, a lot of the questions and fears that people have are based on a lack of information.
Yeah, I've heard that they may be adding more. I don't think.
Oh,
I don't.
good.
Definitely
Good.
gonna,
I'm so glad.
the interest level was so high, and really want more people to get. Look, people are upset. I'm upset. Everyone's upset. I've got 2 kids. You know, and I'm not a series regular yet again, after many years of still not being a series regular. And so, you know, qualifying for those health insurance thresholds, that's something that every year, man, I'm like there with so many people. How am I need to qualify everything. I need to just dig and make sure to try to qualify. And like with these higher thresholds, you know, like I'm in the same place that many of us are. And if you're a senior, I can understand how crazy scary this is. You know, that you thought that you were going to have the SAG-AFTRA health insurance, and now you're being told, well, that's not going to happen now. It necessarily, unless you're doing this, that you have to use your Medicare and use and get some assistance from VIA to get a supplemental. Which is, thank goodness that they have that. But
I want to be clear. I want to be clear. Like, let's not overstate the case for seniors. This is definitely going to affect a lot of seniors, but it's not just that swaths of seniors are being dropped from the program. It's extremely complicated and extremely individual. But I obviously want to acknowledge the fact that seniors are some of our most vulnerable people, and so of course we want to take the best care of them. I will say that in a fair number of cases, according to the webinar, some seniors are actually going to see significant savings, which is a beautiful thing. Thank goodness.
Yeah, a couple of our trustees, of our union side trustees, are seniors themselves and have years and years, and they said that they themselves, having supported these changes, they themselves will no longer be eligible to be on the SAG-AFTRA health plan. And at first there was obvious trepidation about what that means and uncertainty. I'm like, great, now I need to do that. And then when they were guided through VIA, they found the experience to be very, very positive and able to get a better plan. Some instances, not all, but in some instances, they'll be able to do that. And then there'll be a health savings account, an HSA, where the health plan helps pay for their premiums and to help pay for any costs that they have. So I learned a lot from that. And I strongly urge everyone to do what you can to try to tune into that webinar and hear the information directly from the source. Hear it from the health plan trustees. You won't get a better source than that.
So here's a good question. Are the health plan changes a good thing? And should the membership have known earlier than they were informed? There's a typo, but I think we understand the point of the question. I think all 3 of us can agree that these are not good changes overall. They will benefit some, right? But for the most part, this means higher premiums and at the very least, a lot of changes, which is stressful at the very least, right? Now, should the membership have known earlier? I got to be honest, that's above my pay grade. You know, in my opinion, the membership should always know about everything as soon as possible. I don't know the levers by which those decisions get made. Do you two have thoughts on should the membership have known earlier?
I think we knew when we knew, and when they decided to release the information, the trustees. Like right now, if we worked at a corporation and we were talking about, okay, everybody annually, you need to pick your health insurance. Are you going to be HMO? Are you going to be PPO? Are you going to be whatever? Each HR company, each HR department goes out and they start shopping for a new insurance program for your company, and it's called the insurance exchange. And they all go out. Every company goes out and they wheel and deal, and you figure out what you want, what you want to offer your employees, what you can keep, what's affordable, and what they're offering in that exchange. And sometimes you get to keep, everything stays the same and you're great, and you may have a slight increase in benefits. Sometimes you have a decrease in benefits and an increase in your contributions to that plan. But you know, everybody goes shopping. So I don't know how our trustees, when they came to the decision of what can we keep and what's going to be affordable for our members and how much coverage to have, I'm sure they had sleepless nights trying to cut what we can keep and what's going to benefit the most members. But it's an exchange, and it has to do federally. It has to do with what's going on in this country when it comes to healthcare, and the fact that it's a for-profit business where it should be, you know, every citizen in the world should have free healthcare. That it shouldn't be just, your wish list. Everybody should have it, and everybody should have it equally, and everybody should be covered equally. But unfortunately, in this country, that's not how it is. It's all for profit. So, you know, that's the exchange in this country, and we are feeling it. And like, as the union, we are feeling it. As far as corporate America has felt it for a very long time. Like, you've had people that work 9 to 5, actually, like our employees, like our SAG-AFTRA employees. They're on a separate exchange than what we are, because they work a 40-hour week. They're an hourly employee. We, as members, we're not. So they fall under a different plan. And we fall under a union, and we have trustees, and it's a completely separate entity. And that's what we have to understand as members. This is a totally separate entity from the union. So hopefully it's a temporary fix. We don't know. But maybe once they go back into the exchange to start negotiating again, we can get in what's affordable once everything's back up and running. Who knows? Fingers crossed. I mean, that's what I'm hoping for.
Okay. Here's a question. How will SAG possibly have the detective manpower? Okay, so before I ask this question, I want to clarify the premise. So one of the changes to the health plan is that in your next period, if your spouse is offered health care by their employer, you must sign them up for that. And they can stay as your dependent through the SAG-AFTRA health plan, but the SAG-AFTRA health plan is only going to pay as a secondary, right? So the question is, how will SAG possibly have the detective manpower to make sure that every spouse of a health plan SAG member is enrolled in the spouse's company's plan? So first of all, SAG-AFTRA is not going to be, they're not policing that. That is something that the health plan is going to, they have a way to find out. Assaf? were you gonna?
Yeah, I think that would be insurance fraud.
Yes.
So I don't know if they have their own police force, but that is insurance fraud, and that it should not be done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
If you have a social security number, they're gonna find you.
That's
right. And so again, the union is not going to be policing that at all.
although union police would be a great comedy pilot.
Oh God.
Oh yeah.
No, would it? It would just be the people who are in boardrooms putting on a sitcom. Vi, are you sure that the SAG-AFTRA employees are on a different plan from us? I actually thought they were on the same plan as us.
Yeah, I
don't think they're on the same plan as us, because the plan for the members is based on employee contributions. The plan for employees working like a 40-hour work week and having their benefits, that means that they pay into theirs and the union pays into theirs. So it's completely separate. You have to think of it like if you have a company and you're offering your employees.
I know.
Yeah, that's how it is with our employees. But with our membership, that's why it has to be separate, as far as I know. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but that's why we had a lot of people complaining about.
Assaf, you have to break the tie because clearly we disagree.
I think they were brought into the plan in 2000. It used to be, I think, if I may be correct beforehand, but I think starting in I think it might have been 2003 that they actually were brought into the plan, which is actually a really good thing that they were brought into the same plan, because it was costlier the way that they had their own health insurance. When we could bring them in together, we actually ended up saving more money in a good way. And that's, so I think what you're saying, Vi, was accurate. It was, but I think that changed.
Okay.
All
right.
They're in the same boat as us.
Great. Thank you. All right. I'm looking for
economy of scale.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
And they have the same coverage that we do also. And also I received a response to David Lawrence's earlier question about the windows. David, I'm hoping you're still with us. I'm just going to read this here. The production shutdown impacted individuals whose base earnings period is in the second quarter and runs from April 1st through June 30th. As the shutdown happened in mid-March, so jobs prior to that time were not affected by the COVID shutdown, of course. And these individuals with earning period running from April 1st to June 30th, they start their actual benefit periods 3 months later on October 1st. And that's why the transition COBRA begins on October 1st. The idea is to provide the COBRA relief to as many people as possible. Hope that helps.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. A question not about health plan. That's good. What's one thing each of you wish more people understood about any union workings / benefits? So anything that happens at the union, any benefits that are available to people, what's one thing you wish people understood more?
There's so many. I want to give a thoughtful answer. There's so many.
Well,
things
I'll start. I'll start. You think I'll start. And it's why I wanted to do this whole thing. The idea of you are the union. I don't think that people. I think that people really feel like staff does it and then members eat it. And it's really like staff and elected leaders. Ooh, that's something I wish people knew, that the elected leaders don't get paid. A lot of people think that we're paid. I don't even know what I would demand as payment for this. But yeah, all the way up to Gabrielle Carteris doesn't get paid for what we do, right? The staff gets paid, but
the staff, that's their job. They clock in. Yeah. They're not suing. They're prevented. Yeah. They're not allowed to work SAG-AFTRA contracts. And the flip of that is also like once you start getting paid, by the union, you can no longer be a member because then you're an employee. You can't be both at the same time. You could give up your membership and no longer pursue it, and that's happened in the past. but you can't do both. So Gabrielle does not get paid, board members, delegates, committee members.
Right.
Now, if you have costs that you incur, if you're out of town for a union event, so there are like national board members come from all over before COVID and after COVID, they come to Los Angeles and they have national board meetings. And if they incur costs out of here, they'll be reimbursed for those, but they're not getting paid. Man.
So what?
But that's a good thing that they're not getting paid. There's a conflict of interest.
Yeah, no, you don't want us getting paid. So let's go back to your answer on that question. What's something that you wish people understood better?
I wish people understood that we're all the same members and we are all the same union, and that taking sides only hurts us as a union. You know what I mean? Like all of the leaks and the everything that's serving someone else as opposed to the membership at large. I think I'd love for the members to take a step back when you hear something that just came off and it wasn't confirmed. Just be like, hold on, let me pump a brake and let me investigate it further. Yeah. I mean, I that's what I prefer.
Yeah.
Knee-jerk reaction, just yeah.
Assaf?
It ties into what Vi just said here. The union, when we say that you are the union, it really is, that's just so fundamentally important to understand that and to grasp the full meaning of that. And to understand that pretty much everyone who's involved with leadership, whether you agree with them in politics or not, or whether you agree with them on with their position on a contract or on a decision, you're elected are volunteers. And when you're committing this kind of time, and the higher a position that you seek or achieve within leadership structure, the bigger a target you put on your back. And that's independent of which group you may have been aligned with. Mm-hmm. Everybody is in this for the right motives, for the right reasons. I have yet to meet one person from the time that I got involved in this from 12 years ago, who got into this for nefarious reasons, to screw over actors, to help the studios, to help producers instead of actors. I haven't seen that. I've seen people I vigorously disagree with. They're coming at it from a different angle, and I'm coming at it from a different angle. And that goes over to staff as well. Many of our staff members, now some people are going to be more experienced and some people are less experienced. And some things are going to go more efficiently and some are going to go less efficiently. But when you choose to accept a job at a nonprofit labor organization that supports artists, you're saying something. Many of our staff members are regularly entertained or being approached with employment offers at our employers. The studios and networks, and they could take a job there and say, you know what, I'm sick of being harassed or whatnot, of being treated unfairly by the people I'm trying to protect and doing my damnedest to protect, and they don't go there because many of them, because they care. Now, I'm not here to give cover to anybody. I'm just saying, right, before you assume motivations, when somebody doesn't sound right or click or feel right, I'm hoping people just try not to start with nefarious assumptions. Yeah. Take the time and ask them, hey, so I'm a little confused or a little concerned or upset or pissed why you did that. Can you explain to me your rationale behind that? Man, if we can increase some of that civility,
yeah,
with
a healthier place.
Yeah, thanks, you guys. As always happens in these live streams, suddenly in the last 20 minutes, we get a shit ton of questions. So obviously we're not going to be able to get it to anybody. And like I said at the top, I'm trying to prioritize, first time questions, frequently asked questions, stuff like that. So this is actually a question that I've gotten offline as well. You say that some people will benefit from the change. Who and how? So I do know that first of all, changes are a pain in the ass, even when they're positive. So the people that will benefit is that the earnings threshold is going down for people on plan one, right? It used to be something like 35,000, if I'm not mistaken, and now it's moving down to like 25.5, 26 in that range. So to qualify for plan one is now easier, right? So those are the people who are going to benefit. And then some seniors will benefit in that they will be paying less out of pocket and be getting a plan that is more tailored to them. But I don't want to mislead you. I don't think like, yay, the health plan made some changes. Like, no,
Right.
you know, in large part, they are reacting to horrible market circumstances that are forcing them to make changes that will hurt a lot of people. And I don't mean to discount that, and I don't mean to gloss over that. But I do mean that for some people there will be some benefits, right? And I appreciate that question. Okay. All right. Brendan, I'm putting you on video. And unmuting you.
Howdy.
Hey, buddy, how are you?
Hey.
Why didn't our Staples spot run?
Look, as you're saying on this chat, there are things above us that we don't control. I wanted to just start by saying I want to thank all of you for doing this. It means a lot to put in the FaceTime. And I do want to just call out, not as a bludgeon, but just as an affirmation, really. This is the first time I've heard compassion. And that's on you as well, Amir. And I know that I think you talk a lot about messaging. I think that we came off of the vote yes, and the toxicity around that campaign and the momentum behind that campaign. And I think that drove into this event. And I think that some of the culture that was still around that campaign may have then caused the initial reaction to this unfortunate event. And I wondered if possibly just you could speak to the teachable moment that it's great to talk about unity now. And I think let's pick that up and run with it. But we talk a lot about when it came down to the Vote Yes campaign, one of our big tools was being able to point to healthcare. And when we wanted to merge the union to begin with, SAG-AFTRA, we talked about the pros to our benefits and to healthcare. And in some ways, if we're going to take the win on those things, we also have to be willing to just sit there and take the heat when there's the other side of that coin. And this has felt a lot like kind of distancing from the bad when we were really, really willing to embrace the credit for the good. And so I know that that's an impossible needle to thread, and we're all actors and we just want to be liked. But in my conversations with people, it's hard to say, but you told me this was better. And then 2 weeks later, the rug got pulled out from under me. And I think the only way to lead is with heart and humanity. And I love what you all are doing here now, but I do wonder if there's a way to really carry this messaging of unification instead of making it about, well, there's these people who were looking out for you and you were too stupid to know that. And now you're on your own. And I think that some of that divisiveness breeds more divisiveness. Yeah.
Brandon, I really appreciate you saying that. I'm actually quite moved by it. I really regret that this is the first time you've heard compassion. I'm really, really sorry about that. You know, I think, no. I mean, and I'm not saying, I'm not just apologizing to you. I'm, you know, I think we all need to sort of figure out why that is, right? I know that for me, you know, my thing is about like helping. And so, and I've had this issue with my wife, you know, when someone's upset, they don't always want you to just go, okay, it's okay, we're going to fix it, right? It's sometimes it's like, hey, are you okay? Like, and you know, I'm sorry that you haven't heard it, but I do have a lot of compassion. And the reason I have compassion is it's not just sympathy, it's empathy, right? Like I am as scared, I am as angry as you.
And I just want you to hear how powerful it is to hear that from you. And from all leadership, from at every, because I think that in this moment we're all very scared, and I think getting that email, there's not a single person hearing it now that wasn't affected by it. And we just came out of a time of factions and a time of sides, and hearing there's no sides to this. This sucks, and we're all in it together. I think that's just incredibly valuable. And I wanted to I know we're running low on time, but I just wanted to really support that message coming out of this of like, what I'm really taking away is for the first time hearing a universal unity of this sucks, we're all in it together. And that compassion. And I think that's beautiful. And I just wanted to affirm it.
I really, really appreciate you saying that and coming on camera to say that. And I appreciate the time that you've taken. I can only speak for myself, but, I was just put on the LA local board recently. I've reached out to a couple people who I've disagreed with on Twitter in the past and asked them like, hey, how can I be a better member? How can I, or representative, how can I help bridge the gap? And that's something that I'm really passionate about. So I appreciate you holding my feet to the fire that way, Brendan. And I encourage everyone on this call, watching or participating to step up and do that. Thank you, Brendan.
Can I ask one piece out of that?
Yes, please. We're low on time.
Out of that question?
Please.
Coming from a place of fear, I just want to know, how do we trust that 2 weeks from now, it's not worse? There's not other conversations that are happening that we don't know about.
That's a great question.
The truth, Brendan, is that there is no guarantee. When it comes to health insurance, things could get worse. I don't like saying that horrifies me. It's terrible for everyone. We don't know what's going to happen with COVID. We don't know what's going to happen with our national health insurance, how that's going to go. I've made my opinions really clear. I'm all about universal health care. I think it's unethical to have that. I know many people feel that way, to have a for-profit incentive tied into to providing healthcare for people, to link it to employment. It's bizarre. It's off track. I don't think 2 weeks is likely. I mean, if some, God knows, something terrible happens, it could. I don't think that's likely. From what they said on the Zoom presentations, is that these terrible things that they're forced to do. It really said that look, we're between a rock and a hard place, and if we're throwing people under the bus, we're throwing ourselves under the bus as well here. Things could get worse, but I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that things get better. If Biden gets elected, he hasn't embraced universal health care, but he signaled some things moving in the right direction to lower the age of qualifying for Medicare, to move the needle in the right direction. Things could get worse. I don't think that they had indicated that it's unlikely that if they take these actions go into place, this should stabilize the finances. But where things go in the future, man, if you could see into the future, then I've got something for you.
Those lotto numbers, if you can see in the future. I just think we should lead with compassion and with love. And I know that I had a lot of friends curse me out when everything dropped. And I said, okay, I hear you. I feel you. I'm coming off of stem cell transplant and beating cancer. So I had a fight for my life last year. So believe me when I tell you, I understand firsthand. So lead with love.
Maya, I'm glad you're here.
You know what? Can I
okay.
I want to circle back to the question. There was such a thoughtful question before that said if you had one thing that you would want members to understand, and I kind of went on my belief about not making assumptions about people motivations. That's from like an energy place, but on a more practical place, one thing that I think members can really help themselves, especially if you're new to the union, is read your emails. My goodness, I know they can be really long, and there can be a lot of them coming at once, especially if you're getting them from the union and then the foundation and then the health plan, and they probably just read their emails. There's so much information, and we have so many different resources available to us. You know, a lot of times from the foundation, so many resources available to you once you're a SAG-AFTRA member. You know, you can self-tape, you can listen to all casting directors. You know, you have access to the conservatory. There's so many wonderful classes going on there when we get through COVID and we get through past this difficult period we're in. So many resources if you just read your emails completely, and I used to not.
Yeah. Read your emails, follow the union on social, so that you can get, you know, up to the minute info and stuff that'll help you, right? That's
And then also go on the website. The website has everything, hopefully.
Okay, we're a little over time, and I apologize to everyone for being over. To finish up, I just have a couple favors to ask. I would love some feedback on this live stream. You know, we just started doing this a few months ago, and you know, we want to make it as useful as possible for people. So so let us know what you thought. Drop it on the chat, or go to the website and let us know what you thought. Like, was it too long? Was it too short? Should our next one be focused on anything in particular? You know, like, is there people you want to see me talk to? I mean, it's not really an interview show, but you know, like, give us thoughts, right? Like I said, I just want to make this useful. And then secondly, go on your social media and let your people know that you just watched this unofficial live stream, right? Let them know what you thought, right? Hopefully you found it productive. Hopefully you found us, you know, receptive, engaging, compassionate. But if you didn't, fuck it, share that too. You know what I mean? Tag us, don't tag us, I don't care. What I really want, well, don't tag us off in Vivicca because they got enough shit to do, but tag me, I don't give a shit. Point is, what I really want is for people to know that while the union's official activities right now are mostly restricted to, you know, essential business, like I said, the contracts, safety, negotiations, getting people money, that's going on. But there's still member leaders like the three of us and like other people too, who are doing what we can to connect with and represent our members, right? And again, you are the union, right? So if you want to get more involved, hit me up on Instagram, DM me. I'll see what I can do to get you more plugged in. I really appreciate you guys. This has been a great turnout, both YouTube and Zoom. It's been good. We're going to keep doing these. I just think it's important. I don't have a great way to end this. I don't really know what to say, but
then stay healthy, stay healthy, stay safe.
Yeah.
And there are a couple of things I'd like. Thank you, Amir, for putting this together. Make your voice heard in our national politics. Vote with all the stuff, all the questions that we talked about. Vote. And if you have the bandwidth, if you have the time to organize, to phone bank, to phone text, Amir, you might know something about that. On behalf of leaders in other states that might be swing states that can make a difference, who are more in line with where we want to go on the things that are important to us as a union, certainly healthcare. Really reach out to your community. And to make sure they have a plan to vote early, to send, if they're going to mail it in really early or drop it off and so forth. That's the first thing. And one last plug, you should have gotten an email this morning from the union about the SAG-AFTRA health plan Zoom webinar tomorrow. I can't tell you how much I learned from that. And it didn't make my fear, it did make my fear subside. Not completely, and my kids are here. And it's gonna get loud. It's gonna. Wow. Okay. It's gonna.
So Assaf, I muted you. But I'm gonna finish your thought for you. If you haven't been to the official union webinars yet, it's gonna make your fear. I don't know if it's gonna go down or up, but what I will say is it's gonna arm you with information that's going to help you understand why it's happening and what the changes mean exactly. And And that's a really good thing. Okay, I see Assaf took his video off as well. So, all right. Vi, any final thoughts, or can we go?
Yeah, we can go.
Love you.
Peace out.
All right. Bye, everybody. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Bye. Thank you.